Good morning and welcome to Morning Moments. I'm so glad that you joined us today. I have a special guest, another guest from California, film industry, film, television writer, storyteller. She says she loves telling stories, loves that message of story of songs or film. And it's a pleasure to bring Miss USO to Morning Moments, Heidi Marie Ferren. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here with you today. Thank you.
Well, I asked the question like I normally do. What do you do and why do you do it? And I'm so intrigued by your title, Miss USO, too. It's exciting. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm the last one that there is. There aren't any more after me, but I traveled all over the world, performing, speaking, running marathons, building bicycles, whatever I could do for active duty and veteran service members and their families. So completely changed my life and perspective on a lot of things. It was pretty remarkable. Actually, former Secretary Colin Powell, I sung at an event honoring him, and I fell in his lap actually during a song, and he was so gracious and lovely about it. He was, and one of the finest speakers I have ever heard. I was very sad to hear of his passing.
Yes. What a great loss to have such a man go. Absolutely. Well, what's your as they say in the acting world, what's your motivation? So what's your motivation? What do you do what you do?
Well, I wear a lot of hats, and that's only kind of compounded with time. And my mom always told me, just, you can do anything. You should be this, you should be that. And so I just kept doing them. And especially in the pandemic, things that had frightened me before I leaned into. But the reason that I do what I do is because I know stories make a difference. I know they change lives, and they change lives faster than a good argument, a good piece of legislation. They are the fastest way to change a heart and change a mind. And I know that because it started my kind of commitment and passion for the power of a story. I mean, there's no mistake that Jesus spoke in parables. I mean, there is something possible in a story that isn't possible in just firsthand communication. But when I was a little girl, I'm the product of a rape, and that my biological father also molested and abused me when I was a child. And then we had to fight him in court, and I was put into foster care where I was also abused. And I can tell you, as a 4-year-old child, the aloneness that you feel is profound. The adults are, they make that world. And when all of the ones you trust are nowhere to be found, my relationship with God got very tight at a very young age. So I actually had to testify on the stand. They stacked 5 phone books up just so I could see over it. And I had recounted all of the stories of what he had done over and over and over again. And I was sitting on the witness stand in the courtroom, desperate to go home. And again, recounting the same things. And my biological father's attorney was claiming that how could a 4-year-old possibly remember all of these things? She's 4, she doesn't even know what happened to her. So my attorney, because I had a separate attorney because I was a child, said, well, could you tell us the story of Snow White? Now, I had forced my mother, when I wasn't in foster care, to read me the story of Snow White constantly. It was the little golden book. And I hadn't heard that story in probably a year at this point, because I had been in different foster homes. But I sat on the witness stand and told the entire story of Snow White verbatim. And at that moment, I changed everyone in that courtroom. I got to go home to my mother because I realized that not only was his client guilty, but pedophile. And I changed my life because that was the only thing that could have gotten me home. It all rested on a 4-year-old, and that story is how I got to go home. And I wanted to do that for other people forever and ever. And so then as I started getting involved in theater and things growing up, I think too, I started wondering, what's the impact that you're making? And that question kind of followed me all the way through my first experience volunteering for a rape crisis center. And I was worried I hadn't done a good job with this improvised scene that we were doing. And I'll never forget, at the end, I had a woman come up in tears who actually ran the organization and had been assaulted as a teen and never shared because her significant other told her it was her fault. And I slowly started realizing that words, that these stories, they have so much power, and that they can make a difference for people, just like they did for me when I was a little girl. So I do it to make the world a better place.
The greatest prison people live in is the fear of what other people may think of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to tell the truth because we think, well, they'll think differently of me because if I say that. Mm. And the story needs to come out. That story of restoration, the story that I was this, but that doesn't define who I've become. We are not defined or identified by our past. We are not identified by what others say or have done to us. We're identified by who we are and who we become when we understand God's love for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think more than anything, there are horrible things that happen in the world. People walk through fire, and I would love to say that my really early start in life is the only struggle that I've ever had, but it doesn't stop. Life keeps happening. But I know that with God, all things are possible. And that has been sustaining for me throughout life. I was homeless, but then I've also had incredible blessings and surprises from God. This whole pandemic, I'll never forget, I was taking the trash out one day and I was feeling very just self-conscious about, because I was writing more. And I just thought, God, what is all of this for? And I just kept hearing Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And it just kept replaying. Every time I had a question about something, I would just hear that verse come, and it has just proven true time and time again. I was completely blessed to be a finalist for a Disney writing fellowship at the moment when I thought, should I even be writing? And then I was asked to contribute to this incredible book called Brave in Real Life. It's by an organization that fights to help foster girls stay out of the human trafficking system, because 80% of girls that come through the foster care system are trafficked. And And so the book goes to support services and programs that help these young women that start aging out of the system as well and don't have resources, and just the opportunity to be able to use the bumps in the road for good, because that's God uses everything. All things work together good for them, the Lord, not just the good stuff, the bad stuff. The stuff we think of as bad is the good. It's part of the good. I would not be who I am if I hadn't started the way I started. And I just know that there is a purpose. There is a plan and a purpose. And I just give that purpose to God, because I have not been pulling the strings. They have all belonged to God. Everything, God has all the glory.
Some of you are listening to this morning and didn't know why you were tuning in. You're listening to it on replay or other resources, even weeks and maybe months after this is recorded, and you're thinking that was just for you. Some of you are thinking that, how could God love me? How could anybody love me for what I've done, what's done to me? And you feel unworthy. God loves you. He cares for you. He's got you in the palm of his hands. He sees you. He knows what you've gone through. God's not going to love you any more or any less than he does right this moment. There's nothing you could do to keep his love away from you. There's nothing you could do to have him love you any more than he does right now. He loves you and he cares for you. He's got a plan, a future, and a hope. And you think that your life's over. God is not done writing your story yet. And he holds the pen. He's doing the writing. God's not done writing your story. And some of you are about to end it all, or you feel like that you're hopeless and helpless. God's still got a plan for your life. And I think this message was for some of you to hear for a time such as this. Heidi, thank you for sharing your heart with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a huge blessing. I think what you're doing is pretty wonderful.
We're going to put information down below, some of the projects she's talking about, some of the films she's been involved with, some other things about Heidi, so you could follow her and find out what's going on. But also, more important than that, I want you all, as my audience, to be praying for Heidi. Matter of fact, take a moment right now after this show is over. Take a few seconds, a few minutes, and pray for her, that God would continue to use her, put her in the right place at the right time, so that she is already a willing vessel, that the doors will be open for her, and God will continue to bless her and her family. God bless you so much, Heidi. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
And thank you for joining us for Morning Moments. And please keep coming back.